Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Let's please be seated and we start this session. We apologize that we are running out of time, but trust me, it's going to be worth the while. Yeah, we have an exciting topic, and welcome everybody, welcome our audience online. My name is Rita Namachikanangono. I'm the chairperson of the Insurance Appeals Tribunal, but I'm humbled to be your moderator for this session on a very important, thought-provoking topic of crosswires, bridging perspectives on legal tech tensions, learning curves, reverse mentoring, and common ground between senior and young lawyers. I know it's a mouthful, but that shows you how rich in terms of perspective it's going to be. We have a very rich panel of legal experts, legal practitioners, seasoned lawyers, and I'm sure that their insights and perspectives to this topic is going to be worth our time. So we are talking about technology, artificial intelligence, and how the legal landscape, how this is really revolutionizing the legal landscape, and how we are practicing and operating within the law. So to me, as a legal practitioner who was slightly born after computer, our president said there are some who are born before computer, BC. As we are slightly, some of us were born after computer, but now with AI, I'm sure we are born before AI and technology. So I qualify to be BA, before AI. But I'm excited personally on the technology advancements, especially in the legal landscape, how AI is really changing the way we do things, AI and technology generally. We are seeing AI helping us in legal research, in contract analysis, and predictive analytics. That's one area, like AI can predict and forecast case outcomes. Can you imagine? Yeah? Case outcomes. Assess decision-making processes by analyzing historical data. So the legal landscape via technology is going to really, in the future, in the very, very near future, we are going to see it never being the same again. And that comes with it advantages and disadvantages. There are benefits, there's more efficiency, there's improved accuracy. The research is more exciting with, I personally use ChatGPT and stuff like that. So without further ado, because we have 1 hour here today, like I said, we do have a rich range of panelists who are going to divulge deep into this topic, analyzing opportunities and challenges, and just give us some solutions and strategies. So let's get started. I'll introduce the panelists and invite them one by one, and as they come, please give them some energy, clap for them as they come up. So, our first panelist is none other than Professor Sempewa. And Professor, before you come, let me just give a brief profile in a minute or two. No, I'm going to use a minute or 50 seconds. Like the audience needs to know who Professor is. Professor is one of the founding partners and senior partners of CATS. He's the supervising partner of all legal work undertaken by the firm. Professor has been many things, and in the interest of time, will not get into them, but he earned the title of senior counsel. And he has a very rich scholarly record that has made him a leading authority in Uganda on matters related to revenue law, taxation, constitutional law. He's one of the most respected and most widely consulted lawyer. I know, Professor, I've not done justice to the CV in the interest of time, but ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Professor as he joins us up here. Keep the hands going. As he takes his seat, kindly welcome with me our second panelist, and that's Counsel Alex Resida. He is a senior advocate of the Courts of Judicature of Uganda with over 33 years standing as of, that was 2022. I'm sure now there are 35 counsel. He has been in consistent active practice for the last 32 years, with particular emphasis on commercial law, corporate law, mergers, name it. He's the expert in those areas. So, counsel, you're most welcome. In the same vein, welcome with me, counsel. You know, I'm using technology. So, welcome with me, Counsel Moses Adrico. He is a partner. Counsel Moses, okay. He's a partner, senior partner with Max Advocates, one of the leading law firms in Uganda, and has been with the firm for over 18 years. His practice focuses mainly on commercial and corporate, civil litigation, and international criminal law. He's a solicitor of the Supreme Court of England and Wales, among its other things. He's also a past president of Uganda Law Society. He has a very rich CV, but in the interest of time, kindly welcome with me Counsel Moses Adrico, a big. And lastly, but not least, we have Counsel Miriam. Counsel Miriam Okelo, a team. She's the youngest of our panelists. She's a Ugandan trained lawyer in corporate and commercial, but mainly with a positive bias on technology and high growth company transactions. She routinely advises companies on a range of transactions from setup to compliance and governance. So kindly welcome with me. She also has a very rich CV. I'm trying to summarize in the interest of time. So I'll take this seat and we start our conversation. Our panelists, welcome once again. We'll start off the conversation with Professor. Professor, you are the most seasoned of practitioners and statesmen. In your view, what role can bodies in the JLO sector, such as the ULS, play in bridging the gap between junior and senior lawyers in terms of appreciation of technology in the Ugandan space?
Well, I don't know, you are either lucky or unlucky, because before you is a perfect specimen of a BBC, not in the pejorative sense of this morning, but in the actual sense. By reason of age, I was born before computers, and also started practicing before computers. I think this session will benefit from a little bit of history, because we are here to bridge gaps. Before I go into that question, I sense there was a prior question about bridging gaps between the old and the new. What is the technology that we started with would be interesting for you. When we started practicing, me, because all of others here, I don't think they had the same technology like I did. The highest form of technology we had was a typewriter and a landline telephone. I don't know whether some of you have seen a typewriter, but you see that machine had a key which you would press, and the letter would pinch on over a ribbon, and a letter will go onto a piece of paper. And if you typed quickly, then a document, mostly letters, would form. Now, we didn't know how to type, because at our time that was a special technique. You needed to hire a typist. They were mostly ladies, we called them typists. They were well trained to type at a speed. Then you'll get, at the end of it, you'll get a document out of the typewriter. Now, this machine had, in relation to the technology of today, had a lot of disadvantages. First of all, if it was in a room like this, one typewriter, you wouldn't be able to work. It would be making so much noise, unlike your word processors of today. This one was a technical machine. You would pa 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 pa. The whole office would be full of noise. If you had 2 or 3, then you would rather get out and let the typist go and do the work, and then you come back. Secondly, you had to draft. You had to, in handwriting, and give this document to a typist. Now, typist wasn't a lawyer, so in some cases, she would come back with a different version of what you have written. It had no spell check. So if the document was produced, you would proofread it, cross out, then the typist will go back and type again. So one small document could take you about half a day to produce. Then you couldn't print out. It would produce only one document. So that one was the wonderful piece of technology we had. The other one, of course, is the landline. You are familiar with it, but during our time, you could be allocated probably one line, in an office of about 2-3 lawyers, and you would keep rushing there to take messages. Someone will call you, and the receiver would always ask, who is calling, and then call you. Of course, there will be no reading who is calling. So if you didn't want to take the message, too bad. You had to go and say, who is calling? And by that time, of course, the fellow on the other side has already listened to your voice, and you have to speak. Now, afterwards, we had some advanced means of communication. We had a machine called a telex. Have you ever heard of a telex? A telex was a huge machine which you would put in the office, and we are proud we were one of the first law firms to get a telex. It would print out messages from abroad in short form, making a lot of noise. Even if you are dozing and this started sending a message, you have to wake up. So this machine was in one of our partners' office, Mr. Katende. Now the communication was disadvantageous because to be able to communicate with someone outside the country, he had also to have a telex machine. But we are very proud of it. Now, one day we went to visit our correspondent in Tanzania, me and Mr. Katende. We thought Tanzania was a less jurisdiction, we had more technology and so on. And our correspondent there was called Nimron Mukono. We'd never heard of a fax mill, a fax. At least that one you've heard of. Have you? Anyone has heard of a fax machine? Probably him. So we went there, we had never seen a fax machine. We were so proud we couldn't even confess that we hadn't seen it, but he had it, and he was sending documentary messages which were received instantaneously. We wondered, and as soon as we came back, we discarded the telex and bought a fax mill machine. So that was a more advanced piece of technology. At least you could communicate more instantaneously, but through documents using phone lines. Computer, no. The first time I had a computer, I was teaching in Makerere, and people were complaining about salary delays. Story had it that there was a huge machine in the Treasury, Ministry of Finance, and its name was computer. We never heard of it. And that thing was responsible for delaying our salaries or printing them in time. Otherwise, we didn't know what computer was all about. The first thing that looked like had the similarities about computers was a calculator and organizers. And in our generation, a calculator was not trusted, because I used to use a calculator and then check with my own abilities to calculate, to see whether the calculator has calculated properly. But eventually, the typewriter was developed until the present word processors and the laptop, and we adopted. we couldn't do otherwise because this was the technology of the day. And some of us who had not typed before began to type using the laptop. So we had to adopt. So that was basically the technology. And going back to the question was about, can you frame it again?
The question was how, in your view, what role can bodies in the JLOS sector, such as the ULS, play in bridging the gap between junior and senior lawyers in terms of appreciation of technology in the Ugandan legal space?
I think the only assistance or example the old generation like me can give is in terms of adapting. Because if there was anyone who would object advancement of technology, it would be the older generation. And if the old generation can adapt, then I think that gives a very good example. We are so used as an old generation to the old way of doing things. We are using to hard documents, we are used to books, to running to the court to file with hard copies, and we are used to everything to do with what you can see physically. But now things have changed, and we have adapted. And I think this is, if some of us object, I think that will be the minority. In fact, that what I have seen, the most objection has not come from the older generation, but slightly maybe from the middle generation, objecting to ECMIS and so on. But you take an example like mine. First, I adopt, but I also have been mentored by the young generation. Because where I couldn't reach, the younger generation in my office would mentor me. And I accept that because we bridge the gap. Where it is difficult to deal with ECMIS, I rely on the young generation and will proceed. But I accept the principle that this is the way to go. I also accept the principle that there are certain things that now you cannot do without. I practice in regional courts, like East African Court of Justice. There are matters there which are preliminary and have got to be finalized without having to travel to Arusha. These are done online, and I find it so convenient. If you are dealing with motions and so on, which don't require your presence in court, then you do it online. I've also conducted trials on online. It's a bit complicated, it's a bit risky, but it saves you. We used to have clients from abroad, they come here for a trial, and then the judge is sick, or has gone to Bari, or has some other function. So your client from abroad will not understand it. That is something you could avoid by having technology coming so that your client doesn't have to travel. But that is even a fine example. Why should someone travel to Gulu and reach there and find that there is no judge? Travel with his or her client. So these are matters that we solve, but as the discussion goes on, I think we will have to repeat and see the challenges in some of this technology, like the trials online, hearings online, has its challenges. But I think I should stop here because we have limited time.
I know. Thank you so much, Professor. It's interesting listening to you, taking us through the technological advancements we've gone through since 1992, from before computer to the typewriter to the telex.
Mine is from 1972.
1972, you can imagine. So thank you so much for that. But before I move on to the other panelists, because you had started touching on the challenges that come with it, and I think that it's important that we wrap that up. We know that technology comes with benefits. And our profession most times has been conservative, and there was, of course, some resistance to these advancements like ICMIS, like you mentioned. Would like to know, in your view, how can the legal profession preserve the values and traditions of the past while still embracing the efficiencies and innovations that we are seeing by legal tech?
Well, I was going to say there's a hell of difference between our generation and now, but that's explicable on several grounds. First of all, when we started practicing, we are very few. And the range of practice was limited because of economic difficulties of the 70s and 80s. And we had been replacing a profession, mostly of foreigners, with their values, with a lot of insistence on integrity, honesty, and we didn't have, of course, the technology that is manipulated today. So there was really, in fact, during my practice for almost 10 or 15 years, I never knew there was even a law council and a disciplinary committee, because they were irrelevant. You could hardly hear of any infraction. Now, with these changes and the technology advances, there's a big difference. I was going to say, for example, that when you have a virtual hearing, as I have heard, there's this challenge of knowing what is on the other side. Even when we're having these trials or hearings, some counsel doubted whether the witness on the other side, because he's on the screen, is not being prompted to answer some questions. These are challenges arising out of technology, and as was being said this morning, we need a bit of regulation to cope up. But that's just one example. We need also to be more prepared right from our training. Because this is new. We didn't have it. And therefore my advice is limited. I would wait to hear from those born after computers who are more knowledgeable. But there's a possibility of clash of values because of this technological advancement. You heard this morning, as the minister or someone else was saying, that we no longer have thieves with spears and guns and so on. We have thieves on the computer, on the cell phone. So we can advance the discussion from there. But I'm interested to hear from my colleagues. I've been talking a lot.
Thank you, Professor. You raised a very valid point on regulation, but let's now turn to Council Alex Resida, who has been in practice since 1989. Having listened to Professor talking about the benefits and challenges of technology, do you think the opportunities outweigh the risks in adopting technology for legal service delivery?
Thank you very much. We don't have much time, but I can never pass an opportunity when Professor Sempewu is around to mention this so that we continuously know what has been to Uganda Law Society. Professor Sempewu is one of those very few, very senior lawyers that Uganda Law Society has disturbed most in terms of calling on him, taking his time, asking him to chair I don't know how many subcommittees under him, probably 6 or 7 of them over the years, volunteering to always be present, including today. And so, Professor, we are dearly indebted to you. Earlier, the minister said, yes, today's generation, it's the old out and the bold R&B in and so on. One thing I want to tell you why Professor Sempewu is one of those most disturbed is actually because he's one of the most bold senior lawyers we've ever had. And his boldness is soft-spoken, but hard, speaks to power, and is listened to. His message does not get lost in any noise. And Law Society has benefited a lot from you. And we are very grateful. When the guest speaker talked about being robotic, I picked a quotation I had in a presentation I made at an East African Law Society webinar. And it goes like this: law is more than a mere robotic application of rules. Law is used as a social device to reflect society's changing attitude. And this comes to what you have asked me to talk about. And I pick from the example Professor Sempewu gave us to start off this. He talked about the old time where you would have to draft a letter and give it to a typist and so on. And it actually reminded me, and these are some of the benefits of technology coming to your, the values we get. It reminded me a time I would occasionally visit my late father's office. And I would get amazed at how he used dictation for drafting. So his secretary was a stenographer. And these people were trained in shorthand. So my late dad, I'll be off the phone for this just to illustrate it. He would be in his office, and I'm sitting in the corner observing, walking, and would start dictating his letter. And he's walking and dictating a letter, and the secretary in the corner, and he's walking around. And after a few minutes, he's done. So she goes to type the letter. Now, that generation is no more. But where has technology taken us? Okay? Two things. And I start with dictation again. Today, personally, I put my earpiece on. Okay? Because dictation is voice enabled by technology on the phone or on whatever device you want to use. And I do the same thing. I start writing my letter to him at the HND. And I continue my that's dictation. It's electronically transcribed. And I have my draft letter to look at without disturbing any secretary or anyone in the office. There is another option, and that goes to the trainings we have, how we have grown up, what we are used to. In my school days, we were accustomed to writing, and that has caught up with some of us. I mean, that gap, writing. I have a personal weakness. My thought process is enabled by scribbling useless things as I work. And I haven't outlived that. But this is what technology has done. And I actually use this. This is remarkable. Not only does it enable me to write, it enables me to do many things, but it has a feel of paper, unlike the iPad, which still has the iPen. So technology still has taken care of those of us who still want to use this. Like all the notes I've taken today are here. If I want to convert them into text, I don't need to disturb anyone. There's a button here I click and it will convert. And that will be a printable document, it will be an editable document. I can do anything with it. So that's how far technology has taken us. And so, coming back to the question you asked is, how do we understand the shift from analog, if I may use that term, to the digital age? And that's where we are. We have to recognize that it is inevitable. That shift is inevitable. The hybrid we have is with us for quite a while. It's changing very fast. Back to your question, you, from a legal practitioner's perspective, you need to go back a little bit and see what has changed in the way we practice. Our practice, you can put it in categories. There's what we do in our offices or chambers. Okay? There's what we do in corresponding with colleagues in different chambers. That's work within our offices or chambers. Then we have registries, and there are many registries. There is URSB. URSB is a good example of what has changed quickly in terms of digitization, in terms of technology, ahead of the other registries. We have the Register of Lands. Those are the ones that lawyers deal with mostly. Many changes in there. Right now I can do a search on a title from here. That's not a very old enablement that we have had, but exists. How do we benefit? How can I run away from it? What choice do I have? The other choice would be to again go and try and do a physical search. Why should I? Because I'm resisting technology? That would be self-defeating. The registries, we look at the court registries. Those are the other registries we deal with. A lot has changed. And in fact, ECMIS has, like Professor said, part of the resistance actually has been a generation that is in between of practitioners. ECMIS has suffered a number of things that our sector in the justice and law sector suffers, especially the way judiciary and us approach things. We don't get enough training, enough buy-in, enough participation in the changes. So they are kind of imposed. And so they tell you from today, it's ECMIS.
Yeah, Council, I don't mean to interrupt, but we are really running out of time.
I'm about to conclude.
Yeah.
Now, to come to those changes in the registries, how do we adopt? The good thing is, like ECMIS, we are forced. Some registries in the courts cannot accept any service of documents. Now, to jump to the things that we need to focus on, coming back to the question you posed, is how do we do this? And I think part of today's discussion talks about reverse mentoring. And that is us who are senior, accepting to learn and listen from the younger ones. Reverse mentoring, moderator, is something that requires a full session. I thought it was doing injustice to it to bring it here. And I wish I had more time to talk about reverse mentoring, because in our law firm we've done a lot of this. A lot of this. We keep inviting young people to come and talk to us, and we sit and listen. There are certain rules you have to obey for reverse mentoring. Time allowing, and I hope Law Society will take a few of these things as topics in themselves that require more time. It's something that we would gain a lot from in bridging the gap between the young and the old in the space of technology. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council, for that very rich submission. And you never realize how short an hour is till you start listening to such rich submissions. I wish we had the whole day. Bring this back home, Council Moses Adrico. We look at Max as one of the most forward looking firms in terms of technological advancement. It's my perception of Max. Kindly please share, if you don't mind, what approaches Max advocates has taken to adopt technology within the firm's culture, client service, and workflow, so that we can learn and benchmark from a practice perspective.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you. First of all, I also join my senior Alex Ozida in recognizing Professor Sempebwa. I thank you for your brief journey into our progress, into our journey as a profession. Professor Sempebwa is one of the first indigenous practitioners in this country, and indeed, all of us have learned a lot from their practice. Some of us, not necessarily I, but some of my partners spent considerable time at Professor Sempebwa's firm, where they honed their legal skills and indeed gathered courage to venture out on their own into various areas of practice, and obviously sometimes to the bench and so on. So I would really like to, I don't get this opportunity often, to thank Professor as well. I recall when I was the president of Law Society, as Alex has said, Professor was always available to render advice, to guide, And so I really owe him a great debt. And I continue to marvel at his ability to attend events like this one. So that is an example to all of us. And I obviously also want to thank the President of the Law Society and the Council and the people at the Secretariat for organizing the conference. A few teething problems, but like everything in life, we learn as we go along. I recall speaking to the President earlier this year. Indeed, Professor Sempebwa was there. And I asked him, what would you like to leave as your legacy? And he told me that he would like to leave as his legacy digitization on all aspects of the Law Society and all aspects of the judiciary. And I can see that you've made bold steps towards achieving this goal. One of the better things about the Radical New Bar, I should say. Now, turning to the question that you've asked, you see, why is there so much emphasis on AI? What is the importance of AI? And I want to start answering your question by referring to a study that was done by Thomson Reuters Legal. And this report was titled The Future of the Legal Profession. And in its executive summary, it said that when it surveyed a number of lawyers across various jurisdictions, obviously not here, but in the Western world, and from the large number of correspondents that they surveyed, they found that 77% of the respondents believed that AI will have a high or transformational impact on their work within the next 5 years. And 50% of those respondents claimed that exploring and implementing AI into their daily proceedings was their highest priority. It also found that from US-based firms that AI integration could free up to 4 hours of legal professionals' time, which would translate into approximately $100,000 in billable time. Now, obviously, you and I, we work in Uganda. We mainly have recourse to our advocates' professional our rules when calculating a billing time. But my colleague here, Miriam, who does not necessarily go to court, don't calculate their time in that way or how they bill in that way. They have a tool, and perhaps she will speak about it, in which they're able to record time and then determine how much time has been allocated to a particular file, and thereafter determine whether or not you're charging a reasonable fee. So the issue about time, because what do we sell as professionals? We sell our expertise, our skill, but it's our time. And time is a finite resource. So AI is going to have a huge impact on how we spend our time and how we are able to quantify that time and how we are able to earn from the time that we spend in our profession. Now, why AI? Why do we think AI is important, and what have we seen? What has been our experience with AI so far? What we've seen is that AI can help us draft contracts. It helps us to review contracts. It helps us to summarize complex legal texts. I recall we had a presentation by LexisNexis, and huge judgment, 200 pages or so, was summarized in less than 5 minutes. You know, the prompt was put to the machine, the AI machine, and it came out with a summary in less than 5 minutes. Something perhaps would be poring over that text for maybe 2 days. Miriam and her friends would do their 2 days. I would probably take a day or so after they have summarized it for me. So you can see how powerful this tool can be. We've also seen that it helps with precedent review and also, as I said, document review. Now, there's some interesting tools that are on the market, which have been developed on the continent, and I think I should speak about them because you're all young. How many of you use AI? Pass show of hands. Yeah, so the majority of you. So perhaps what I'm telling you already know, but there's an interesting tool called Law Pavilion, South Africa. It was developed in South Africa, and it is being used in South Africa, basically, to what our chair said, to predict outcomes of cases. Because sometimes, after it looks through all the data, and you have a particular problem, it can predict which way a case will go. Indeed, perhaps the judiciary ought to look at that tool to help them in the analysis of cases. There's also a very interesting tool in Nigeria called Case Radar. I don't know how many of you have heard about Case Radar, but it's also a very useful tool. It helps lawyers in Nigeria to find all the laws governing a particular issue. It engages in robust and accurate research, and also it helps, with it streamlines the lawyers' time and efforts with particular issues that they're dealing with. Now I want to turn to Max, because really your question was about us, Max. How are we adopting to AI? Of course, as a firm, we are fortunate to be part of a network of law firms across the continent, 16 law firms across the continent. And this helps with scale, in the sense that a number of these tools can be bought off the shelf. Now, if I'm going there as Moses Adrico to buy that tool, I would not afford it, simply because they are very expensive. It's play for time. So because we belong to these networks, we are able to leverage our size and our numbers and be able to negotiate cheaper or a more affordable rates for these tools. We use LexisNexis. I think a number of you are familiar with it. We use a tool called Bill for Time. Our document management our documents are managed by a tool called NetDocs. And individually, various lawyers we don't use ChatGPT a lot because we don't think it's very useful. Although there are some firms in the US that use ChatGPT, but the ChatGPT they use is a more advanced version. It's called ChatGPT Enterprise. There's a firm in the US called Gibson Dunn that uses that. Thomson Reuters, that conducted the survey I spoke about, also has a tool. It's called Thomson Reuters AI Suite. Microsoft also has a tool. It's called Microsoft Office Copilot. But again, all these tools they're insufficient models to train all these tools. Recently, we sent one of my colleagues, some of you may know him, Mr. Derek Kizito Kunyiga, for a short internship in a firm in London. What is the name of the firm? Yes, it's called 3 Crowns. Those of you in arbitration practice would know that 3 Crowns is one of the most acclaimed firms for arbitration globally, not just in the UK. And he was telling us, because one of the questions we asked when he came back was, what sort of tools were you using there? And he said, actually, what they were doing was their firm is being used as an incubator by Stanford and one other organization. I'm not sure whether it was Microsoft or one of those big tech firms, to be able to train models, to create training models, to train the AI to be able to adapt to the arbitration practice. Because, for example, in the arbitration practice, a lot of decisions, etc., are confidential. So how do we train the tool into be able to give us a predictive outcome? You feed it with a lot of rulings, decisions, and then it's able then to determine with some degree of accuracy on the outcome of a particular case. So those are some of the tools that we are using. Do I think that AI is important? I think if we are not careful, some of us will be out of jobs, especially the young, those who are just joining the profession. There's a lot of work that is done by trainee lawyers, Already Alex spoke about how he can search online, how we file online in URSB, all the research that our young lawyers do, drafting all the pleadings. That work, unfortunately, is going to be taken away. So what is the challenge? I really think the challenge, For me, I'm coming to the tail end, but I hope I last as long as Professor. It's one of it's one of my aspirations. But for those who are just at the beginning and in the middle, like a lot of you are, you really have to embrace these tools, because what they're going to do actually is it's going to be a game changer. I think the dichotomy between the so-called big farms and the small farms will be eroded by these tools, because these tools are a force multiplier. You know, where you need size and scale to do certain things, you will not need that size and scale when you have proper iterative AI models that have been properly trained. So it's a great opportunity. I think you should grasp it, and the future is yours to own. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that rich submission. AI is both exciting and worrying. And you went into a bit of the second question I was going to ask about the challenges and the future, what the future employment landscape looks like for the young lawyers.
You're looking at the future.
Yes.
Miriam works with us.
Yeah,
so
Miriam as our youngest panelist. Miriam, her year of call is 2021. So, kindly share with us the tech platforms or tools. He has shared some, but we are excited to know more about what tools you're using in your practice as well. And you can combine that also with the next question, because we are running out of time. Our lunch is ready. How can young lawyers leverage on technology to create mentorship opportunities? Because now we are talking about reverse mentorship, learning from you, but how can they create mentorship opportunities with the more experienced practitioners like these panelists?
Thank you. I just want to start off by saying it's such a privilege to be part of this panel with such distinguished legal practitioners. It's an honor, really. I think Mr. Drico has hinted on a lot of the platforms that I use. I'll sort of share from a personal perspective and also from my work perspective. The one mundane tool that day in, day out, when you clock in and you clock out at the beginning and at the end of the day that I use is the Microsoft Office suite. It's where I take my notes, it's where I schedule my meetings, it's where I manage my calendar, it's where I manage my work, my practice, really. The other one is, as a lawyer, you need your database. So LexisNexis and Practical Law, which is a product by Thomson Reuters, is really helpful, and particularly when it comes to the AI tools that are embedded within it, because it saves you a lot of time when it comes to research. For someone like myself who is a transaction lawyer, we're usually rummaging through tons and tons of documents. And so any tool that helps you cut that time, it's a welcome advantage. The other one, which I think it's a new staple for me, is PitchBook. And that's because, you know, we entertain a lot of clients, both regionally, nationally, internationally. And the very important thing when it comes to transactions is knowing your client, knowing what kind of deals they've worked on before, what kind of business verticals they're in. And so PitchBook gives you all that data in a very concise and easy to manage, it's easy to take in manner. I just want to put a caveat there that a lot of our African businesses, and maybe it's a challenge, but a lot of our African businesses don't share a lot about their business. And so whereas you have a lot of that information for a lot of the international clients like MTN and the like Stanbic, for example, you probably struggle with the very local businesses where you have to go and rummage through the internet and all and sundry to make sure you get that information. On a personal level, and I think I'm now reporting myself to the partner, but we do a lot of tinkering in the firm, at least amongst associates, with ChatGPT. And that's simply because a lot of the enterprises that are also providing a lot of these solutions are working off the open source version of ChatGPT. And so a lot of the mundane tasks that we really don't like doing, like raising invoices, we find a way to train the tool to come up with faster ways for us to rummage through that process. They give us a first work draft and then we tweak it. Another process we've been trying to do, at least for my litigation associates, is prepare the bill of costs, which is also painstaking. Another personal one that I do, because we do make a lot of presentations, is Canva. So unlike PowerPoint, Canva is very intuitive. You can pick your themes, your colors a lot more easily, come up with decks that are very attractive and make seamless presentations to clientele. So I think I've given you my tool book. I just want to make sure I have not missed anything, but those are the really big ones. And then I think the other one would be the Slack. They're very technical, so I'm also looking for a solution that's more seamless or easier to work with. And the other one is listening to a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of information out there. I think my recent favorite is Acquired, and as a transactional lawyer, just listening to how other lawyers are handling deals is also helpful. And then to segue into your next question on mentorship, for someone like me, and maybe I'll just borrow from Professor Sempebwa's presentation, I think I come from the very privileged generation that saw the transition of technology to the way it is now, from the development of Macintosh and the CPUs to the MacBook as it is now, or the phones from the brick Ericssons to the slide, flip, and now the touch phones. I deeply appreciate what technology is doing for us now. I don't take it for granted, particularly when it comes to mentorship, because the big one for me is access. There are so many rooms that you probably would not gain access to simply because of where you were born, which country you're in, what the money that you have, and technology solves that. So social media platforms like LinkedIn are really, really, really good. I know I have personally used it to do school work, office work. It's really helpful. And so the one trick I would say, I also struggle with it, but I do recommend, because it works, is platform yourself, show people the work that you're doing, showcase it. The other thing I would say is get involved, and this is just borrowing from what Councillor Rezida said about Professor Sempebwa, is that the more you get involved in the work that you do and showcasing it on social media platforms, the more people get to know about you. I think our practice has transitioned from a point where your work speaks for yourself to where it is now, where you're the embodiment of your work. The information that you're putting out there on your social media platforms, the kind of engagements that you're having with colleagues and players within the market, go a long mile to helping you attract work, build a portfolio within the market. And then the last one, but I think is a big one for me, is because we're in a constant learning curve, is to be humble. Be humble to your seniors and your juniors, because you literally learn from everyone. And so sometimes, in my experience, for example, I will get emails from students asking for help, or from someone sending a message on LinkedIn. You don't lose anything to respond to those messages and be courteous. And the same goes, on the other side, is that when you're reaching out for help, do it in the most courteous way, because you just don't know where else you'd meet someone. And so I think for the questions that you've asked me, those are the really big ones. Of course, I'm happy to stick around after this discussion to just have further discussions with members in the team in a room.
Thank you so much, Miriam, for so selflessly sharing your tools with us. Members, we had a lot more to share, but we are running out of time. We've used up exactly 1 hour because we started like 10 minutes past 2 and it's 10 past 3. Allow me stop the panel discussions, but at least give the audience an opportunity to ask 1 or 2 questions. Then I'll invite the panelists to give their parting shots. But like you've heard Miriam, we'll stick around so that we can carry on the conversation during lunch break. So a question or 2 to our panelists as we wrap up. And my panelists, you can prepare your parting shots to our audience. And to you, Ellis, I think we needed more time. Hope you can invite us back and we have at least a half day, maybe mini workshop on this topic. All right, please go ahead. Your name and yeah.
To us on this very topical discussion that is making rounds. And I can say that as a lawyer, whereas I have fears in adopting AI advancements, I am also very hopeful of how much work it can actually do for us. But I have been having a question around copyright of the work that is done by AI. And I've been grappling with this. And the fact that AI can actually render us, render us very lazy. Because AI, I've been taking steps on studying it. The more you give it data, the more you grant it the ability to do for you work. I was grappling with a discussion with one of my mentees who was saying that for them, they used AI to develop a very big document. And they said that, I asked them, who is the owner of this work? And this mentee said that the work is theirs, but it was generated by AI. And I asked them, what is, because when you look at the copyright laws, it is based on how much input you've placed there. So the argument was, I have the fact that I've given the instructions. If I say that, write for me a paper on this and this, probably use a case study of Uganda, that is enough contribution to be able to own the write-up that comes out of that work. So I feel very disturbed. I do not know. I shall send this question to Miriam. I do not know what she thinks around the copyright. How much should someone add in terms of the content? Because this work is generated by the AI and you're claiming that the work is yours. The issue of ownership. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that submission and question. Let's have one more so that we can have answers at once. One more question at the back. The person moving the mic, please hurry up.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Tony Obonyo from Uganda Development Corporation. My question goes to Uganda Law Society and the senior lawyers before us.
It goes to?
Uganda Law Society and the senior lawyers.
Okay.
Senior Counsel Adrico and the rest of the team. What is it that ULS and the senior lawyers, I know there's a senior lawyers forum, what do you intend to do to ensure that AI and digital transformation is shared or implemented across the board from different law firms to different practicing advocates? how do you impact to share your knowledge that you have on AI or digital transformation and ensure that it trickles down to small law firms, or is it a one-off discussion like we are having now by ULS, and ULS is not going to put any more tangible effort, or the senior lawyers will not put any more tangible effort to ensure that this actually becomes reality? As we speak in the room here about AI, I can guarantee you there are some law firms that do not even have computers or desktops in their firms. They actually run to computer centers to print the things. So as we are running at a very terrible speed here at Munyonyo, what is being done by Uganda Law Society and the senior advocates to ensure this becomes a reality? Then secondly, Senior Counsel Adrico mentioned how the concept of big and small law firms will eventually vanish if AI is actually, or digital transformation is picked up. To me, my idea on this is, I don't think that is possible, because it's the big law firms that actually have the ability to acquire the big technology transformation gadgets. I'll tell you, a law firm like S&L Advocates is using very powerful, sophisticated technology that I believe a law firm downtown Nakasero might basically not be able to acquire such technology. So this goes back to the deliberate effort. How are the seniors and the society as an institution going to improve on the concept of AI, digital transformation, and how everyone, all lawyers, can appreciate it, so that a lawyer deep in Katakwi is able to know that there is AI and there is a digital transformation?
Thank you so much, Tony, for the two questions in one. We don't have ULS on the panel, but I think the other bit of the question was to Council Moses Adrico, who will answer that. Together with maybe the other senior councils, they would also chip in. But on behalf of ULS, I think this conversation, starting this conversation, is part of the solution. But otherwise, Council Miriam, speed of lightning, if you can answer your question in a minute, I will appreciate that, as well as the other senior council on his question. Yeah.
Real quick. So, first of all, that's a really good question. I hope you can hear me. Okay. So that's a really good question, because now is the best time to have a discussion for two reasons. The first one being that the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act is currently being discussed for amendment. I believe one of our colleagues was actually before the Parliament yesterday to moot some of the solutions that are facing implementation of copyrights under the current act. And then secondly, because this is an issue that both advanced worlds and also developing worlds such as us are at the same pace on. So there's a case that's currently against OpenAI by New York Times. Same facts as what you presented in your question. A lot of businesses have gone ahead of the curve and decided to put a lot of their content behind the paywall to protect their copyright, to restrict access to their resources that are on websites and tech platforms to ensure that there's no scraping of their data and use of their copyright. I know that the American jurisdiction has also made changes to their law to protect copyright from the output, in a sense that the input that you put in the AI model to generate the output is copyrightable, not necessarily the output. So two solutions to your problem. One is a business solution, which several companies are doing now. Protect your content as much as possible, put it behind a paywall if you think it's marketable. And then secondly, really engage with the lobbyists, the lawyers who are making presentations before the Parliament. Make your needs known, advocate for change, and engage with URSB, the IP team, to find solutions now when they're considering changes to the Act, as opposed to then when an amendment has come through.
Miriam, kindly give your parting shots as well.
All right. I think the one thing that maybe I'd want to keep with you all is that technology is an enabler. It does not change the fundamentals. Being a good person, being genuine, being a trustworthy person. And I think Council Resida did a very good demonstration of how technology can enable you. It doesn't take away the fundamentals of doing your research before your case. It just makes your work easier. So try as much as possible to not steer away from the ideals that make you a trustworthy and good legal practitioner, but just using technology to enable yourself work smarter and better. And then maybe secondly is, as much as possible, try to collaborate with legal tech innovators that are indigenous within the market to ensure that there's a growth within the market and early adoption of such tools, as opposed to reaching out to more international players and service providers. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Councillor Moses, you can respond to Tony's question and also give your parting thoughts.
Thank you. Tony has posed a challenge, I think, to all of us. How do we democratize this revolution that's taking place, the AI revolution? And it's a very complex question, and I don't think we can unbundle all the solutions or provide all the solutions in the time frame that we've been given. However, I will say this: the genie is out of the bottle. It's with us, and the question is, how do you either adapt or you become like a dinosaur and you'll die off. So really the choice is ours, and the agency is ours. So how do we do it? I think the first step is to access what is free. As my colleague Miriam has said, there's a lot of free open source. I think the young ones call it open source information. It's there. And all it requires a little willpower to go and access that information. I think the second thing is, like anything in life, we should gather together. We should group up like we are doing here, because we all learn from each other. And I think that's what goes now back to the society. If I was in the leadership, we would certainly create a committee that deals with AI. All the facets of AI, including and ensuring there's mandatory training for AI, maybe once or twice a year, but certainly create some form of committee where, because we do have experts among us. I think Mr. Basoga is there. We have Dr. Faizo Mukasa, who practices in Canada. We have resources. How do we use the resources that we have? How do we learn from each other? And how do we get empowered? Because if we don't empower ourselves, I can assure you we shall be swept away. And those are my parting remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Professor, you will wrap this up. I'll ask you last, but Council Alex. Council Alex Resida, kindly answer Tony's question and also give your parting thoughts.
Thank you very much. Tony, to answer your question, ULS and senior lawyers, well, like the moderator said, this is one of the things. But let me remind you one thing about Law Society and the R&B agenda. Digitization, they've been talking about it. So they are doing something about it. ULS is doing something about it. And today we are here witnessing that. So it's something that is continuous, something we need to embrace. I remember, probably from a historical perspective, we had Justice Potter chairing Law Council, approval of chambers, and so on. And at one time, he actually made it a condition that if they come to inspect your chambers and you don't have a computer, you are not going to get a certificate, and therefore you're not going to have your PCs. It took that kind of effort to push people in this direction. So being purposeful, being intentional in this drive is one of the things that we can do and we can utilize to make us reach where we should reach. And in that respect, I want to thank the President Law Society for his message earlier today, which ended by saying, in terms of technology, spend your money. Or if you must, borrow. Borrow, but do it. That was a powerful message, well packaged, and that's what we all need to be doing. The other is the reverse mentoring I talked about, which needs a whole session of its own. But also, mentoring happens in many ways. I said I've worked with the professor on a number of things, especially for Law Society. One thing I can tell you about him is adaptiveness, even in technology. So if I've watched him adopt technology in the little work I've done with him, what choice do I have? How can I see him ahead of me in that curve? Why wouldn't I be challenged to do that? And in turn, am I doing it for the young generation, those younger than me? How am I encouraging them? How am I enabling them? So those are things that we have to keep remembering. We are short of time, but your question provoked me to dig out an article. I presented this in our law firm in one of the sessions we had. And it's about the legal jobs that you will hear about in 2025. There are a few of them, legal operations manager and so on, and if we had time, I would go through what they are and their justifications. But for today's purposes, the second in that list is a legal technologist stroke legal engineer. And what do? They develop and implement tech solutions, that contract automation, AI-enabled research tools, to improve workflow efficiency in legal matters, to bridge the gap between IT professionals and lawyers by understanding both the technical and legal requirements. And why is it growing? With the rapid adaptation of artificial intelligence, automation, and specialization software, law firms and legal departments need professionals who can customize and maintain tech solutions. Efficient use of technology is increasingly a competitive differentiator for both law firms and corporate legal departments. There are other jobs there, data and privacy and so on, compliance and ethics officer, AI ethics advisor. There are a number of those jobs that are lined up. So, again, as a parting shot, always challenge yourself. Ask yourself, are you updated? The spelling of up in this case is APP. Are you updated? Continuously challenge yourself. Are you updated? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council. I'm going to copy that. Are you updated? Okay, over to you, Professor. Kindly, you can respond to Tony, but also give us your parting thoughts as we wrap this up.
Actually, very little, just to echo what my colleagues have said. I don't think you'll expect senior lawyers to do what you are proposing, except in the way that they have talked in a panel like this, what ULS is doing to improve our knowledge. But the challenge is up to you. I was a great lover of books because of the old generations, and I would carry books in court until I found that my young colleagues had their books in this. So I said, look, I'm out of date. So I got mentored that you don't have to carry books. You can have your books in a small gadget like this. And I adopted. So this is the challenge. You have to. And begin with that simple technology which is free and available, as my colleague Mr. Adrico has said. That's one. Number two is, let's not worry about technology taking over our jobs. Some jobs, of course, will fall by the wayside. Just as in our generation, there was no need for a typist, a stenographer, all this fell by the wayside. In the same way, as someone has said, some of these jobs, you no longer have to have a clerk who will go to search the land office, the company register, and so on. But ultimately, with all that technology, the human capability will be needed, because the human is the one who operates the technology. And this technology will keep changing, requiring, again, human adaptability. So let's not get worried that we are becoming irrelevant. Let's worry about what mistakes this technology can make us make. It has happened elsewhere in South Africa. Lawyers have cited the wrong authorities, and judges have come to know about it, and that has been catastrophic because they have relied on AI for all their work, and AI has turned up with the precedents which did not exist. Yes, it has happened. So let's worry about that, but not loss of jobs. But I thank you very much. This has been a very wonderful interaction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. Hope, I know you're looking at me like you have a burning comment, but we had closed, though I feel like it would be very unfair to you as a member of the audience not to say something. So if you don't, then it's okay. It's fine, because it's not common that after we've closed, then it had better be a comment, not a question. In a minute, just make it. We can hear you, because we are really out of time. Thank you for the opportunity, and apologies that I wanted to make a comment on what Tony asked, what the Law Society can do, and the senior lawyers. I think it's high time we started to think about leveraging our numbers as members of the Law Society in order to access these costly technologies that can be deployed across, law firms, whether you're a small law firm and a big law firm. So using our numbers and the providers, going to the providers of these solutions, what is it that then we can level across board? And I want to use the example of COVID-19. When Africa was struggling to get access to vaccines, because each country was going on its own, and the producers of the vaccines were saying, that's a small, order you're making. And they were ignoring us. And then the African Union said, we will go as a bloc. And now with the numbers, they were willing to listen and say, Africa, by the way, is now coming as a bloc. I want 400 million, vaccines for my people, as opposed to, I want 10 million, because that was very small. So as members of the Law Society, maybe the Radical Nuba, how can you help us leverage our numbers to access these technologies, to deploy them across all law firms? And then what Moses was talking about will be a reality. Whether you're a big law firm or small, we are now having access to all these technologies. What is it that we are offering our clients? Thank you. Thank you so much, Hope, for that solution. I'm so glad that I let you speak. It's a good one. We have to leverage on our numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this very, very interesting, thought-provoking panel. I think you'll agree with me that the panelists have done a wonderful job. We had more to share, but in the interest of time, we have to end today, but thank you so much, Miriam. Thank you, Councillor Adrico. Thank you, Councillor Resida, and our professor. I just add my voice to the previous speakers for appreciating you for always being available to us. Thank you, the Radical Nuba, for this very, very relevant digital tech fest. I'm sure we'll never be the same again as lawyers, and we look forward to the second edition.
Thank you to our moderator.
And thank you to our audience for staying with us for such a long time. We know that we are standing between you and lunch. And Councillor Adrica said thank you to the moderator. I'll leave you with a quote that says, AI will not replace humans, but those who use AI will replace those who don't. That is by the CEO of IBM. So those who use AI will replace those who don't. So thank you so much, and have a good afternoon.
It is at Sunset Restaurant. You'll get directed at the registration table as you pick your coupons.
I don't know whether there's a photographer who would like to have this photo moment with the panelists, because it has been a wonderful panel.
Yes, it has. And I encourage you all to stick around. In the afternoon, we'll have more interesting discussions around cybersecurity, women in tech. Don't go away. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch. So lunch will be just 30 minutes or less for us, so that we can catch up with the afternoon sessions. Thank you.